About 20 miles north of San Diego is Solana Beach, a coastal town of 14,000 people that was marked by two major changes in the last few decades, incorporating as a city in 1986, and in 1995, becoming a stop on Southern California's north-south rail line.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're now arriving at Solana Beach Station, Solana Beach.
Solana Beach being selected as one of the 3 transit stations for both the Coaster and Amtrak in all of San Diego County was huge for our city. It made a big difference in terms of the business development that was coming to Solana Beach, as well as the general knowledge that Solana Beach even existed. I can't tell you how many times people would say, "You live where?"
Lesa Heebner is mayor this year, a position rotated among the 5 city council members. These are citizen legislators, each earning about $600 a month for their services to the council. Mayor Heebner is a kitchen designer by trade and shares governance with a landscape architect, an accountant, a healthcare executive, and a businessman. Together, they've got a big job to do.
We right now are in the midst of a transition. We have a neat, funky beach town, which we love, and we know that a lot of money, both public and private, is coming into our town to renovate it, to polish it, to bring it up to date. So we have this wonderful challenge of keeping our feel that we really love, yet also knowing it's time for a little remodel.
For guidance on planning, they turned to Fred Kent, the New York-based urban geographer who is known worldwide for creating vibrant and eclectic public spaces.
The public spaces in a community are the lifeblood of a community. They are the places that people come together, where they connect with other people that aren't like them. They become curious, they become engaged, they become enticed, they become comfortable, they become happy, they have affection. All of these qualities expressed in good public spaces are life support.
Well, the council had expressed an interest when I brought the Fred Kent idea to the full council in working with him. And so we invited Fred Kent to come to Solana Beach, and I was lucky enough to be the one to give him a tour. We started at Fletcher Cove.
Okay, so is this the primary place where people come to the water?
Yes, this is the primary place. The water is what Solana Beach is all about, is the beach. But as you can see, we don't have a whole lot of beach left any longer. What we do need is more room for people to recreate, and that's why Fletcher Cove is so important.
Oh yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah, what we have now is simply this big old parking lot. It's just all asphalt.
Imagine the cars having a view of the water.
Yeah, lucky cars, huh?
If
only they could see.
Yeah.
Kent did not like the abundance of cars on Plaza Street, nor the speed of traffic barreling down Highway 101. But he was pleasantly surprised by South Cedros Avenue, home of the Cedros Design District.
If we just sit and look at this street, what it's composed of is some new buildings, but mostly little tiny old residences mixed in with warehouses. And it's as if they have been changed to, you know, like a toolbox with gems, diamonds and emeralds and all in it, because there's all been kind of retrofitted with retail oriented toward design. We are so underparked along here, and it's a concern because there's that balance between you want to see a bunch of cars here because you want to know people to know that this is a cool place to be, but at the other end of it, you don't want it to be so hard to find parking that you think, oh, you know, I'm not even going to go there because I'm going to be circling and circling looking for parking.
If you make this more walkable, then the parking can be in a lot of different places. It doesn't have to be right in front of the store.
Oh, right.
And that changes the whole dynamic of that. Here you have a personality.
You do.
That is just, it's so special.
It's really, great. We're so proud of it.
Yeah. You know, when you look at a city that has defined itself around destinations or places, it changes the whole aura of that to people. And, you know, what you're doing here will give it so much more of a draw, and people will come here to walk around because you feel like you want to walk. And then when I went across and I looked at Loma Santa Fe, I was just horrified. I said, how could a little town like this have such a massive road? It's just awful. I mean, it's like all of a sudden we're coming from a wonderful little special world into the world of grunge and just sadness because it's all about the car. And it's no fun. You know, all of a sudden we have to be afraid. We have to. Are we going to try to cross the street here?
Yeah. Don't worry.
Okay. Just hold on to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lanes. You know what we say is whatever a traffic engineer says, do the opposite, and you'll be building your community. And what you're doing is you're in this transition. You're in this kind of time period where people are doing old road design, but people are coming in with a new way of thinking about community. And that intersect is happening right now, and you're still playing to that old idea by listening to what the traffic engineers here say, rather than what your sensibilities are about making this a wonderful street as part of your community. It's not part of your community.
So there would be a time period, if we were to go along with that thought, and what we would do would be reduce lanes rather than add lanes, then there would be such congestion. What would you do then?
No, because people who are going through here wouldn't come here anymore. People who want to come here will come, and they'll experience and they'll be part of this place.
But
not
passing
just,
through,
instead
you'd
of
find
passing
another.
Through, yes.
You'd go
we
up
don't
5.
want people to pass. You'd stay on 5. Right now, if 5 gets congested, we just go and get on 101, and we'll just speed up at 70 miles an hour, and we'll come right through. What's this town? What is this town we're going? Oh well, I can't tell. Anyway, there's no personality right here, and you just go on up.
Heebner went on to show Kent the area around the Solana Beach train station, the site for a proposed mixed-use development that would include commercial, retail, housing, a parking garage, and a new home for the North Coast Repertory Theater.
This is just amazing to have. This is like adding 30% to your downtown.
Yes.
So, I mean, at that level. So having this be really good is so important.
Yes.
Just hope it is.
Well, me too.
Yes.
Very much hope so.
Right.
7 months later, Kent returned to Solana Beach to conduct a placemaking workshop with community members, or what Kent would call zealous nuts, a term he uses with affection.
Zealous nuts are the most incredible people in a community. They have an intuitive vision about something that they know that community needs, and that they are bound and determined to get that to happen. So this is about what we call placemaking. It's really about people in a community trying to figure out how to make a place for themselves. This community has been defined by the automobile, more than you can imagine. And as you look at it and begin to see that maybe you ought to start defining the community around people and public spaces, you'll be able to see and be able to be part of a shift away from sort of that one-dimensional idea that we have, for the last 70 years, have been led to believe is the way our communities should grow. This happened in Sydney, Australia, and there are these women all together, huddled together in the middle of the street. It didn't look very pleasant out there, but they did live and got across the street. But that's not something you do to your mother or your grandmother. That's not the way to treat people. These are my primary clients, and I think they should be yours too. This 80-year-old woman struggling down a street in Paris. It was so beautiful to watch her. There was nothing that would interfere with her. She was very brave, very fragile. If she had lived in a community like this, I doubt she would ever go out. And these 9-year-olds, to me, are the ones that we have to design our streets for and our communities for, because they're the ones that we want them to grow up in a broader, engaging environment rather than isolated in our homes or schools or whatever they are. So let's think about designing the community around places. So what is a place? What is a good place? It's about comfort and image, uses and activities, sociability and access and linkage. But what's really important is when you stand out there in that place, or you think about the best places in your community, does it feel safe, charming, clean, attractive, historic? In terms of access and linkage, does it feel connected, walkable, convenient, accessible? In terms of uses and activities, is it special, vital, active, fun, and real? And then sociability, is it welcoming, cooperative, or neighborly? Take that idea of place, and let's expand it exponentially. You need 10 major destinations or places. Do you have them? How do they work? So each place or destination needs 10 things to do. What we say is if you have a library and you have a children's reading room in the library and you put it next to a playground in a park and you add a coffee shop, a laundromat, and a bus stop, you'll have the busiest place in, within 20 miles. Because all you've done is put sort of natural uses together where people would come and then do something else. That's what triangulation is. So the bus stops, if you have a high level of service, it can have a big impact. I can't imagine anyone who would not want to use the bus if you had that kind of service. But we worked in Los Angeles with something called the Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative, and this was a placemaking exercise. So that's obviously not a place. Even the wastebasket looks awful, and the stick is how you find out where you go. So this was that destination, and we put a bus stop shelter in, and then we worked with a property owner next to it, and he put out a patio, and it became a destination. And there's another view of it. And then the proverbial Starbucks moved across the street because there was more people coming there, and other shop owners put stuff out. So it became a destination. So you see how you can do little things that can become places. But I'm showing you this one because this is one we worked on in Detroit, and it kind of reminded me of the center of your town. Had sort of a resemblance to that. And so Detroit didn't like that at all. So guess what Detroit did? Is that they decided to create their central square there. And so this is the vision that we did on the right. The landscape architect came in and did the one on the left, and it opened up, and there it is. That's the center of their town now. And we just learned yesterday, the day before yesterday, that it's the third most important place in Detroit. And doing this and having that significant impact is just awesome. There it is in the wintertime, and in the summertime, it is just a glorious, glorious place. People even get married there. And then getting into amenities, this is not very comfortable to sit on a fire hydrant, even though our predecessors did. And it's not that nice to sit on your child. But if you do put out benches, look at this simple bench, double-sided, how different people can arrange themselves to have their own social activity. And here it gets even more interesting because sex is included. But look at that bench. Look, all those people are totally oblivious of what's going on. But when you see affection, you've got a great place.
The residents then broke into groups and toured several sites, among them Plaza Street, the train station, and the so-called Cedros Gap.
This is this area on South Cedros, our design district, that sort of stops the pedestrian traffic. There seems as if there's nothing there anymore. And the reason for that is these two large buildings are set down and back.
I think part of the gap is created by the fact that these are office spaces. Maybe that needs to be on Cedros as well, but maybe it shouldn't have the priority of being ground level, because it does just end.
Mm-hmm.
You don't keep wanting to continue on to there because there's this huge gap.
Right. So this would be a great spot if it was a walking destination. You could actually turn this into a little nighttime theater where you show old movies or fun old movies or something.
Next was Plaza Street.
Plaza Street is the street that connects Fletcher Cove to 101 and then indeed all the way over to Cedros on either side. Plaza Street is named for an area that you can visualize as an area where people would gather and maybe be able to picnic, to sit down, to hang out, and it's not that right now.
How would you evaluate it today?
On a scale of 1 to 10, about a -3.
Okay, so it's really not the heart, and we got to figure out how to connect it.
It's nothing.
If they wanted to maximize this, they should shut it off to traffic. Just
So
close it off.
to connect 101,
Close it off, and then make this an open, place.
more of an esplanade.
It'd go insane, but the fact of the matter is, given what the talk was all about, and cars are no good, and we want to have bicycles and we want to walk, what we should do is just take the cars out of here.
So-
They do that in towns all over the place.
What would we do to change this spot? Or this section in here?
Widen the sidewalk.
Okay.
Short term or long term?
Short term.
Widen the sidewalk, put some seating.
Okay.
I mean, the wish list also for me includes some kind of a performing space area where you can have an outdoor sculpture show, or some dancers performing, or some musicians performing, and creating an ambiance.
So a place to come,
yeah,
a place to be.
And finally, the train station at North Cedros Avenue.
It's important to think about the train station as a major gateway into Solana Beach. In other words, anybody traveling into Solana Beach by mass transit, they're going to come out of the train down at the platform level, look up at the project, and come up through the stairs or elevator, and then arrive up here at this level.
I think the train is specifically a function, not a destination. Mm-hmm. It is like doing a chore. You're coming to the train station either to leave to go someplace, or as these people
picked up. But in time it could be a destination with the project.
That's what you absolutely need to have it, a stay and rest a while, stay and enjoy yourself. Right now it's not a stay around place. It is everything, as attractive as it is, everything propels you out of here because you've finished your chore. There is no reason to stay. Okay. And that's why the theater and the restaurants and the other businesses are critical to give us a center of gravity. We don't have one now.
10 places.
Yes,
10 places,
and you're right.
10 things to do.
The building should have...
The site survey groups came back to report their findings to Kent and those gathered at the council chamber. This was a day of healing for Solana Beach after a just completed bitter campaign to limit the size of homes in parts of this coastal zone. Neighbors were divided, some arguing that Proposition A would violate property rights, while others claimed it was needed to maintain community character. Prop A did pass, barely, by a margin of 67 votes.
The timing for this could not be better for our community, because I think you see the diversity here in this room today. We can all come back together as one city, even when we have disagreements about issues. And that's really what the council, all 5 of us, have been trying to say, I think, all along, is that we all have this vision for Solana Beach. What do we want it to look like for our kids and for our grandkids? And this today is really giving us that opportunity to work together as one, because I believe all 5 of us really want to make this the best community that we can. Thank you.
So I think you're a community of zealous nuts, and be proud of it. Don't hesitate.
While the placemaking exercise did stimulate a sense of shared values for Solana Beach, there were still major issues of contention, the largest being Cedros Crossing, the proposed development around the train station. It's now an asphalt parking lot with about 300 spaces for the coaster and Amtrak riders, but the regional transit agency that owns the land wanted more, and in 2001 selected developer Greg Shannon to make that happen.
In essence, North County Transit District, what they wanted to do was redevelop the site so they could get more parking for the train, so they could get more people on the train.
In consultation with community groups and city staff, Shannon's company developed a comprehensive plan for the site.
The project's designed to be a transit-oriented development, not just a project next to a train station. And there really is a big difference. It has to do really that if you're transit-oriented, you're really pedestrian-oriented, because you want to get people out of their car using the other mode, in this case the train, and you want to make their experience at walking a big invitation. It's got to be a cool place to be. One of the things that we tried to do was create a large public plaza on the corner of Loma Santa Fe and Cedros. The plaza is lined by cafes and restaurants that will have outdoor dining, and the people will sit a little bit above and a little bit separate from the sidewalk in Loma Santa Fe. Now we're going up Cedros, and this is a view of the building immediately north of the train station that has retail on the ground floor and lofts on the second floor. This is the North Coast Repertory Theater building.
On the north side of the theater would be about 140 apartments, and to the south,
the entrance to the train parking is this driveway right here.
An underground parking garage with some 500 spaces for the transit riders and patrons of the North Coast Rep.
And there's the train.
At the Kent workshop, residents had walked the site, talked with the developer, and were generally supportive of Cedros Crossing, but not, however, in the City Council. 2 weeks after this workshop, the Council and residents returned to review the project's environmental impact report and were presented with conflicting information. In relation to its surroundings, would Cedros Crossing look like this, as one city consultant contended, or like this, as one architect described?
I'd like to focus on the EIR's inadequacy and inaccuracy regarding the significant adverse impacts on aesthetics This is taking the plan that was proposed and building a CAD model of it and imposing it on the site so all of you can see this as decision makers and understand the scale of what we're talking about. So when we look at the train station site here, I had to build a model. It looks like this.
And of course, parking. Would this plan accommodate transit parking and the theater for the next 25 years? The council was skeptical of the answers it had heard so far and asked for yet another study. 4 months later, Mayor Heebner convened the council again.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Solana Beach City Council.
The consultants presented new, more detailed images clarifying the visual impact of Cedros Crossing.
And the next view is the simulated view taken from the project's plans. They incorporated the current proposed landscaping plan.
But the parking was still in dispute. This traffic engineer testified that Cedros Crossing was too short on parking to meet the needs of the theater and future transit riders.
You expanded the parking lot a few years ago and you filled it up. With this project, I'm dead certain you're going to fill it up again. I just don't see where the sharing is going to be available for any of that parking, particularly with the theater.
Putting a premium on parking over placemaking, even for a transit station, is misguided, says Fred Kent.
Parking? Why? Parking is what happens where any kind of development that you go into, and it's always the first word, parking. And if you hear that, you know right away that they're on the wrong track. But if you say, we're going to create a great place for people to gather, parking is number 10 on our list, but those are number 1, then you're on the right track, and you'll actually build a community around people.
I really like and agree with Fred's philosophy that parking in a mixed-use development is not the end-all be-all. If there's enough frequency on the transit so that people truly can get rid of their cars and use just the transit. Unfortunately, in Southern California, and specifically San Diego and Solana Beach, that isn't the case. People don't walk to the train station, and people who live near the train station have to have cars.
I think he couldn't be more right. He's 1,000% right, if that's possible. If you read all the City of Solana Beach's ordinances and their specific plan, nowhere in there does it say create a good place. It really doesn't imply that either. One thing that's been extremely frustrating to us is that since our initial community workshops in 2002, almost all the focus in the community and certainly in the City of Solana Beach's public hearings on the environmental impact report has been on traffic and parking, not what makes a good place.
Repeated delays in certifying the environmental impact report, a critical step before approving the project, have been difficult for Greg Shannon, but the pace did pick up a bit this summer.
Well, what we did as a council in the last July 19th meeting was to set up an ad hoc committee. And I'm a member of that ad hoc committee, as is council member Mike Nichols. And we're going to be meeting with the stakeholders in the project to discuss this project, to discuss the impacts that have been identified, and to see if we can come to agreement on how we can make changes that will work for all of us. We want this to be a win-win situation for the developer, for the community, for the theater, for everybody involved. We want our residents to have an asset in this place and not something that's just kind of a headache.
So the mayor and the ad hoc committee have been working privately on a compromise that will satisfy all parties and meet a federal deadline for a $6 million grant. The first to be cut from the project because of insufficient parking was the North Coast Rep. The theater company will instead stay in East Solana Beach, outside of this nascent downtown. To Kent, losing the theater to parking is a blow to the making a place because a theater would have been a catalyst for activity at night.
There's never enough parking, ever. I've never been a place where there was enough parking. And it's kind of a disease. What people, I think, are really saying is, we think that parking is more important than anything else. And that's really deceptive. And it's sort of like a mantra in a lot of communities. Every citizen has become a traffic engineer and a parking nut.
But Kent says the citizens of Solana Beach can be proud of what they did accomplish here at Fletcher Cove.
Fletcher Cove has been in the planning in our city for quite a few years. There have been a lot of councils over the years who have worked toward this success. What we did was, after we walked through there with Fred and saw the sea of asphalt and all, is it was demolished, and very quickly, within 9 months, an entirely new Fletcher Cove was built. Okay, I hereby declare this beautiful Fletcher Cove Park open.
That's a wonderful project, and it was a great advance from what it was before. But nothing, you're never finished. It's always can get better. And when you say you're finished with a project, that's wrong. When you say we've gone to another step, and the next step is this, and the next step, and you grow that so that that area gets better and better, and you learn from what you do, and then the next step, and the next step, and the next step, then you're on a track that will just only continue to reward you.
And Kent takes heart that the zealous nuts who will guide the planning will, in the end, make the right decisions as they continue to embrace the making of place.
So what do you guys, let's evaluate this.
Didn't know it was there.
Okay. He doesn't know it was there. I mean, I didn't know it was there either.
And the fact that people are engaged is priceless. You know, that's democracy at its best. Every community has enormous challenges. And what I'm really impressed with is that they've taken this on, that they are challenged. They're not going to turn away from the challenges, and that they have become a community that's a lot more together, that has a vision. It may not be totally shared, but at least they're moving into an area that they will just be very proud of, and it'll become a better place again and again and again.